Hey, welcome back to my channel. I feel like I'm racing the clock always these days when I want to make these videos because natural light is ideal, but if you live in the Pacific Northwest, which basically feels like the North Pole right now, it's 4 o'clock and it's already starting to get dark. So I'm sorry about the quality and the lighting, and as this video goes on, it'll probably get darker because I think the sun just set. But I'm here. I have a few things to talk about today, so let's get started. If you're new here, my name's Micheala and this is my channel, and I actually don't really know what it's all about, but if you look back at my past videos, you might see some themes that maybe I don't see yet. But basically my goal right now is just to come on here, practice speaking to the camera, practice sharing my thoughts coherently on topics that are coming up for me. I'm currently in graduate school training to be a therapist, so I feel like I have a lot of topics coming up in my life that I think are interesting and want to share, want to get other people's opinions. Today's topic in particular, I don't really have like a solution or an answer to the question, but I just want to explore it a little and some of my thoughts and some of the things I've talked to my clients about, and also just get some of your perspective. So again, as I always say, if you have thoughts or questions or want to share down in the comments, I would love to hear from you. So this topic was brought up by one of my clients in our session, and it's this idea of always wanting to feel special, but then also always wanting to feel normal, and how in a way you can think of feeling special, feeling unique, feeling like there's something about you that sets you apart or maybe even above, versus feeling normal and feeling like, is there anything wrong with me? Do I fit in? Do I blend in? Do I make people comfortable instead of uncomfortable? And there's these two worlds that are kind of opposing within ourselves. So even just recognizing this concept of like these two extremes that live within me and these two desires and the pressure that I might feel to be different and the same, even just recognizing that is super helpful for overcoming some of the anxiety that these topics bring. I think in particular what's really interesting, because I grew up in America, so I feel like I have a strong kind of cultural upbringing around individuality, and I don't think I ever really knew that. It's like maybe the water I swim in a sense. But when I talk to people from other kind of really different cultures, I noticed that in America, and at least I feel like in my upbringing, we tend to lean towards the wanting to stand out, wanting to be the best, wanting to have the highest grades or stand out in some way, versus the wanting to be normal. I feel like it's almost glorified to be weird and to be offbeat, and that's something that I've totally fallen into. Like, I've been kind of averse to things that, even though they're good for me or maybe I do want them or need them, if they feel too normal, then I sort of am averse to them. So it creates this interesting psychology of individuality and trying to always set yourself apart and always stand out. When I have clients that are from other cultures or are maybe biracial, where they have that own internal struggle, maybe they were born in America, but their parents are immigrants, for example, and this just hypothetical, you could think about how hard it would be to feel the pressure of, let's say, parents from certain countries, maybe East Asia or somewhere around there, that are really more focused on the collective and the fitting in and following traditions, following norms, and that standing out is actually sort of dangerous for them. But then they're born and raised in this American culture where standing out is really pressured and, I guess, glorified, and that idea of individuality and being weird and not being normal is actually more advantageous in this country. I always want to make the disclaimer that I'm making huge sweeping generalizations and kind of talking about my very limited experience with this, with my culture, with people from other cultures. But I just thought it was an interesting part of this dynamic between being normal and standing out. I think it shows up in a huge way culturally. And I often think about, like, what are the ancestral roots of this? Now, when I think about fitting in to a culture, that one seems really easy to me to understand, because I feel like, in a way, like, as humans, our species was so successful because we were able to work in groups, because we were able to agree on larger storylines, and that includes culture and social norms. So these are all part of us as social creatures. And I think they've studied other, like, slightly social creatures, like other kind of primates, and they've shown that, like, this fitting in mentality is part of their survival tactic in a way, that as long as we can rely on each other and not have too many things out of the ordinary, then it actually helps everyone feel safe. On the other hand, I was thinking about like, what are the evolutionary advantages of standing out? And they've also done studies on this. I think I remember watching a documentary about baboons and how they have this like social hierarchy, and having like this hierarchy creates more stress for the baboons that were on lower parts of the hierarchy. So that's another interesting aspect of the psychology or even the evolutionary biology of why we have this innate desire to stand out or to win or to be better than. And I just find that all super interesting. So where does this bring us? So we have this dichotomy, and again, a lot of times suffering comes from when you get to these places of internal battle. So you might have, I believe in parts work, so you might have a part of you that wants to be the same and a part of you that wants to stand out. So trying to come to a place of, one, accepting that you have both those parts of you and that they come from a place of evolutionary advantage in a sense, or that there is some wisdom in both of those perspectives, that really when you find these contradictions within yourself and within philosophy as a whole or just psychology, I think it's important to just accept contradiction when it exists instead of trying to fight it and trying to say black and white, it has to be one or the other. And I think again, some cultures really do push for one or the other, but it's clear that there's advantages and disadvantages to both extremes. So balancing in this sense is actually the most ideal. To take another perspective, I always like to bring it back to self-love. So when I think about this being something that plagues me or plagues one of my clients, I think the important thing is just to bring awareness to it and to almost just be able to laugh at yourself or have compassion for yourself for having that struggle. For example, if you go into an experience and you find yourself thinking, is this normal? Am I doing this right? Is this how everyone else is doing it? Or is everyone looking at me? Those kind of things, then you know that part of you that wants to fit in is speaking up. On the other hand, if you feel like you're comparing yourself to others and you feel like you're falling behind, or that you're not being noticed or no one's listening to you, or those kind of stories, those stories align more with the wanting to stand out. So noticing the stories, and this comes down to just deeper practices of meditation and being able to hear your own thoughts and be self-aware. But I think just noticing the stories, I know it sounds almost too simple and too good to be true, but noticing them when they come up and just practicing that, always bringing it back to noticing and just being the observer and being like, interesting. I'm thinking about wanting to be normal right now. Interesting. I'm comparing myself and wishing I was better than that person. So noticing when those come up and having compassion, and then just tapping into that deeper level of self-love and self-acceptance, self-compassion, just knowing that a lot of those stories come from wounded parts of yourself, that it could have just been one moment in your childhood where you were made fun of for standing out or made fun of for blending in, and those moments really impact us. And kids can be kind of cruel. They don't mean to be, but I feel like sometimes kids can be blunt, and then we say things. I remember a tiny experience of being called a teacher's pet or something, and how I feel like I was just really liked the teacher, but then now I'm realizing like, oh, it looks to other people like I'm trying to manipulate the teacher or something. But anyway, that one little comment just like impacted me, and just little things like that. And I urge you to try and dig back. I know it seems cliche coming from someone that's training to be a therapist, but I definitely am of the belief, at least right now, I'm open to changing my mind on this, but I'm of the belief that some of these experiences when we're kids, before the age of 12 to 14, let's say, or even younger than that, those experiences are so impactful to our stories about ourselves, to our self-esteem. And that's why kind of unearthing them and digging them up and reprocessing them with our adult capacities is a really important process. So I urge you, if you feel like you're on this kind of teeter-totter where you always feel like you're either too fitting in or too standing out, I think just coming back to your center and knowing that you're just right. You're not too much. You're not enough. You're just you, and just accepting yourself and your process and seeing how far you've come from where you started, seeing that there's a lot of things impacting you, and also being empowered to lean in to changing and to loving yourself more and more each day. I hope some of that made sense, and I just wanted to let this transmission come through today because it's been coming up a lot in different conversations I've been having with my clients and with my cohort members. So I think it's really a cool discussion to be having. So please, like I said in the beginning, feel free to go down to the comments below and tell me what you think if you've had experiences with this idea before. Hopefully this video gives you a sense of how like scattered and random these videos are going to be. But if you like it, please subscribe. And if you want to help me, be found by other people so that I can reach my goal of 1,000 subscribers, please share this video if you liked it, or another video of mine if you liked it more. I think if you like the video, you can turn on notifications. All of those things help me. So thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you in the next video.